So about 100 different people have sent me the story about the 5-year-old boy in North Carolina that was executed by his neighbor in front of his 7-year-old and 8-year-old sisters. I think people sent the story because they were shocked that the story didn't make national news. I think people sent the story because they were wondering how such a heinous act could go unreported. And so, people send the story. They know I do these videos. I talk about some of these incidents, and they were questioning how did people not know about this? How did this happen? How do some stories make national headlines, cause riots, cities burning down, and other stories that seem to be exponentially more egregious, they just no one even knows about them. So I think that part of it, a lot of people blame the media, and a lot of people will say, the media is to blame for this. The media is to blame to some degree, and this is not a popular opinion, but the media is to blame to some degree. The media puts out what the people are going to react to. They're in the entertainment business. Whether you want to believe that or not, the media is in the business of entertaining and engaging their viewers. If it's not going to engage their viewers or entertain their viewers, it's most likely not going to be on the news. And sadly, and I'm not the only one saying this, celebrities have said it. Denzel Washington and other actors and celebrities have said it now. Some football players have said it. And it goes to the argument of when people talk about, black on black crime. And I've seen all kinds of crime. 13 years as an officer and working with officers across the country and internationally, whether I've seen it myself or worked with officers that have seen it. Certain crime doesn't resonate and doesn't trigger that biological response from people. So in our society, sadly, black on black crime or even black on white crime is not shocking, is not noteworthy. Some people would say it's common, so it kind of just goes by the wayside. So when these horrific things happen, like this man, Darius and Sessoms, and people are like, he just had dinner with the boy's father, he lived next door, and all this stuff. Listen, none of that matters, right? He walked outside with a gun, put it to the head of a 5-year-old boy who was riding his bicycle, and executed him in the middle of the street in front of his 2 little sisters. So those 2 girls are scarred for life. We know that, right? So the father, of course, is completely distraught, and everyone is left scratching their head. However, the news, and this is the sad part about this, that no one's really talking about, that a crime like this is so not newsworthy and so not noteworthy that it doesn't make national news. As a society, I feel like we should all be very, very concerned by an incident to this magnitude that doesn't make the news. It doesn't even make a blip on the national radar. I think everyone should be very, very concerned when a 5-year-old child is executed in the middle of the street in America, and it's like it never happened. If a criminal fights with the police and the police engage that criminal and subsequently have to shoot that criminal or detain that criminal, and that criminal loses his life in the process of fighting with the police or something like that, it's national headlines. And it's turned into a national headline. Let me say that. It's turned into a national headline. And other groups get involved to make it a national headline. There's no group right now chanting, talking, burning down buildings or anything for this little boy. And one might say, if any event was going to trigger buildings burning and cities burning, it would be the execution of a 5-year-old boy in the middle of the street. But no, that doesn't trigger anything. That doesn't even make the news. There are people in the state of North Carolina that didn't even know this happened. How in the world is that possible? So that should be scary to everyone in this country. That's the state we live in, right? So it can happen to you, depending on, I guess, your skin color, right? That your child, 5 years old, could get executed in the middle of the street. Now, I talked about Zamar Jones, 7-year-old boy, playing with toys in front of his home in Philadelphia. A young black boy. Black men got engaged in a shooting in the street. Zamar was shot in the head and killed by a stray bullet. No one heard that story. There are people in the city of Philadelphia that didn't hear that story. Why is that? So, at some point, I don't care what level IQ you have. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I don't care whether you're Democrat, Republican, Hillary, Biden, Trump. I don't care what color hat you wear, what flag you fly. Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter. Doesn't matter. What matters is we're in a situation right now where children can get executed in the middle of the street in broad daylight, and it doesn't make a blip on the radar. The news doesn't talk about it. But when these other, for all intents and purposes, what people could deem as less egregious incidents occur, and it's blown up into a national spectacle. Like I said, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If you're not recognizing that that is wrong, then there's something wrong with you. Because that should be a concern for everybody. Everybody. That 7-year-old boy's mom, I started a GoFundMe for them. I spoke to his mother, Zamar Jones's mother. I spoke to her. Of course she's distraught. She lost her baby. No one wants to bury their child. But I gotta tell you, if that was my child, one of the things I'd be saying is, how come criminals are getting attention, but my baby's not getting attention? If I was this little boy's father, I would say, why is the man who executed my 5-year-old baby in the middle of the street, why is his name and his face not all over the national news media as a monster? But no one outside that area knows the name Darius Sessoms. That's a travesty. That is something that everyone of all races, of all political backgrounds, of all genders should have a problem with and should be scared about, because that is not okay. Because any baby that gets executed in the middle of the street in this country and the news doesn't talk about it like it never happened, that's a problem. This isn't about defund the police. This isn't about defend the police. This isn't about the police at all. This is a child. This is a baby executed in the street while riding his bike. People have said it before. We've become desensitized to some degree. And like I said, there's plenty of people who've said this, black actors, black athletes. People have become desensitized to black violence because of how common it is. They've become desensitized to it. And that's a problem. That's not okay. That is not okay. And if we're living in a society where that has become okay, we all need to wake up. We all need a wake-up call. Because children are getting killed. No one is talking about it. And it's like, oh. And the next story is like about someone not wearing their mask and getting into a fight at the Quickie Mart. Like that. That's it. So I'm at a loss for words, and all the people sending me the story and saying, this is horrific, this is terrible. I'm at a loss for words. It is horrific, it is terrible, but I just don't know what the resolve is. People say, oh no, the news media didn't talk about it because the man who shot that little white boy is a black guy. And that's not what the news media wants. That's not newsworthy. And they're not wrong. They're not wrong. They're not wrong. Hey, listen, if it was a white guy, would it have gotten more media? I don't know. I don't know. Probably not. So the people who are saying, oh, if it was a white guy, nah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. The incident with the black man beating the piss out of a Macy's employee. No one even heard about that story. Beat the piss out of this white Macy's employee. No one even heard about it. Worse than any police beating I've seen in a very long time. No one heard about it. How did no one hear about that? How is that possible? So maybe we all need to sit back and take a look at what we are being shown and ask, before we just view it and consume it and absorb it, we ask ourselves, why is this being shown to me? And then when you hear about these other incidents, maybe you ask, why did I not hear about this? What is going on right now in this country where certain stories get lit on fire with gasoline and other stories literally get swept under the rug? It's sad. It's sad. There is an agenda. For people who say there's an agenda, of course there's an agenda. There's an agenda for everything. But the lives of children getting executed in the middle of the street, the lives of children getting shot while playing with toys in front of their house at age 7, parents burying their little babies, and it's like just another day. Just another day. Just another day. But, let somebody fight with the police, right? Let someone fight with the police, get into a struggle with the police, and God forbid those police officers are white, and that suspect is black, and that suspect ends up losing his life because of resisting arrest or struggling with police. And watch what happens. We had a black man, while his friend was getting arrested, pull out a gun and attempt to execute a police officer. Thankfully missed. And he was subsequently not shot, tackled, and they started burning the city. They started burning the city down. Let me repeat that. 2 black men are walking down the street. His buddy is wanted for a gun-related homicide. The police come to take down the buddy. He's watching his buddy get arrested. He slips a gun out of his pants and tries to execute the police officer arresting his buddy, shooting him point blank at the head, but missed. The officers shoot back, and there's a riot. They start burning shit down. Riots. It's on the news. Marches, protests. Where's the protest for Zamar Jones, who took a bullet to his head while playing with toys on his front stoop? Where's the protests for this little boy, Cannon, 5 years old? No one's going to protest that? No one's going to get angry? No, that just doesn't happen. I don't know what's going on with this country. I really don't. But I got to tell you, if you're living here right now and you're seeing what's going on and you're not concerned and you just think, I'm going to go about my business. This isn't really going to affect me. You better think twice about that. Because that little boy's father probably is seeing all this craziness going on in our country and is probably thinking, yeah, this doesn't really affect me. But everything that happens in this country affects all of us. No one's isolated. It affects all of us. A lot of people who don't live near Portland, they're like, oh man, that Chaz, oh, that's crazy. Oh, glad I don't live there. It affects you, even if you live 1,000 miles away. All those things have a ripple effect. Chicago, people are getting murdered and executed in cold blood in Chicago every day. The weekends are like a bloodbath in that city. And there's people, oh man, glad I don't live there. Whew, man. That does not stay isolated to Chicago. Believe me, as an officer who did the job for 13 years, in time, that will have a ripple effect. And it will eventually affect your life. Give it time. I know you can't talk about that. I know. No one will talk about how the number of unarmed black men killed by police through 2019 to now is less than the number of young black children that are murdered in cold blood in Chicago in one weekend. One weekend. No one will talk about that. If that doesn't send a red flag up to anyone watching this, you're blind. You're blind. Everyone's talking about the child trafficking. The child trafficking is the big thing everyone's posting about on social media, Hollywood. Epstein, Giselle, Maxwell, all that stuff. Everyone's talking about that. And that is freaking horrific. It was something that I had heard about it as a police officer, but I didn't know to the degree of how horrific and how pervasive it is. I had no idea. And it's getting attention. Thankfully, it's getting the attention from somebody. I mean, Hollywood seems pretty quiet about it. Everyone in Hollywood is like, right? Where are the protests? Where are the marches? If anyone should burn a building down, you would think it would be the parent of a child that got either murdered in the street or got kidnapped and is now in the sex trade somewhere. I'd want to burn something down too. As a parent, I'd want to burn something down too. Because it would hit me personally. But no. Children getting murdered in the street, cold blood, executed. Actually, Chicago, young black men are literally executing in alleyways other young black men. And you won't even hear about it. No big deal. Black on black crime. And don't say black on black crime to someone with the Black Lives Matter movement, because they're going to call you a deflector, a race baiter, Uncle Tom, coon. They're going to call you all these things, bootlicker. Those are their names, right? Those are the catchphrases they throw out at you now, right? Someone says something that like counter, and God forbid, you counter their opinions with facts, and it's like, oh, you're an Uncle Tom, you're a bootlicker, you're a racist, that's their only like workaround, right? They can't have a real conversation. Do they have debate teams in schools anymore? I mean, no one's even in school anymore. No one talks anymore. But do they have debate teams? I remember when I was in school, they had debate teams, and you'd have things that you debated over, right? A group of kids here and a group of kids here, and they had a debate, right? It wasn't I'm right. No, I'm right. I'm right. No, you presented facts to support your story. And this team over here presented facts to support their story. And they went back and forth, and there was a debate, right? Now there is no debate. Black Lives Matter. Yes, Black lives do matter. All Black lives matter. Yes. And the 9 killed by police matter. And the 15 killed last weekend. The 9 killed by police over the last year. Yes. And the 19 killed execution style in Chicago this weekend. They matter too, no? Racist. You Uncle Tom. You coon. How dare you talk about that? You're deflecting. Race baiter. All right. That's real mature. We're gonna get somewhere with that too. That sounds like we're gonna move along pretty good there. All right. I'll tell you what. You know what really brings progress? Hiring a U-Haul moving truck in a premeditated looting. You guys heard about that, right? Chicago, they elevated their looting not by just breaking windows, running in, stealing stuff with their hands. No, they pulled up in moving trucks. Rolled the roll-up door open, and were loading merchandise into moving trucks in Chicago. Because Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, and that is their response. Let's get moving trucks and rob and loot and steal. And shoot at the police. Yes, the police were shot at. Multiple officers were injured. That really gives society a good picture and tells society these people want change in a positive way. Is that the picture you want society looking at? They turn on the news and they see large swarms of black people running out of a store, loading a U-Haul truck full of merchandise that they just stole? Who does that honor? What does that do? If you had some people that were on the fence about your cause, and they were like, yeah, I don't know, maybe they didn't grow up around black people, maybe they don't have a lot of interaction with black people, but they're thinking, yeah, police brutality, that's a serious thing. Yeah, that's not okay. And then they see that. What do you think is going to happen to those people? You think they're going to now just jump right onto the side and say, oh man, Black Lives Matter, this is it? Or they're going to say, you know what? I get the cause, but I don't get the looting and the burning and no thanks. I'm not going to associate with that. I can't support that. And it goes on. Think about what you're watching. I'm going to do a blog on this on 221B Tactical, so check out the blog. It's going to go into a little bit more detail, give some links to some of these stories, and I always say form your own opinion. Form your own opinion. Don't take my opinion. I'm just a talking head on Facebook, YouTube, the internet. Form your own opinion. Do your own research. Read these stories. If they're troubling to you, then do something about it. Don't post a hashtag on social media. Do something about it. Just be careful, because there's craziness out there. Oh, and wear your mask. Wear your mask, because it's very important. Buildings are burning down. Police cars are on fire. There's looting. There's shooting. People getting shot and killed in the street. And there's all kinds of stuff going on. But don't forget, the most important thing is wear your mask, because the coronavirus is deadly.